Okay, first world problem moment here. We have climate change, declining population rate, poverty and famine in African countries, as well as catching up with Osu drama to name some of the world's biggest problems. But instead, I'm here to complain about rhythm game difficulty options. Imagine you're playing Osu, and you're fairly experienced with it, being able to play up to 5 to 6 stars. So you download a song that interests you and the top diff is in your skill range. You import the beat map into the game, but then you can't play the map because it's locked. To unlock it, you have to play through all of the lower difficulties and then you're deemed worthy enough to play the top difficulty. Isn't this a waste of time? I mean, this example was a bit of an over-exaggeration, but it's common for rhythm games to treat everyone like an absolute beginner and lock all the higher difficulties when starting out. I mean, I get it. Restricting higher levels for newer players makes sense, because picking something you can barely play doesn't really teach you a lot or let you improve. And it's dumb. But people start at different levels. Not everyone is a complete beginner. Factors like prior rhythm game experience gives you an advantage when starting out, along with genetics. Now, I would say I'm pretty decent at rhythm games because of the unhealthy amount of money I spent on My. So when I started playing Phigros, a mobile game where you have to tap the notes on the screen, just like My, I was able to get the hang of it early on, jumping all the way to FC in level 11s when starting out. My comfort zone was around this level range, but I prefer to play higher just to challenge myself. Well, unfortunately the game was like, no, you can't play them until you play the lower levels. Like, come on, I can play these easier levels with one hand, because it's just boring playing something that isn't challenging. Out of the difficulties, Phigros will unlock the insane and another, meaning you have to get an A rank on the hard to unlock the insane, and an A rank on the insane to unlock the another. Eventually when your rank reaches 11, you get all the insane difficulties, which at least you don't have to go through the cycle of playing every hard chart to unlock everything. It does take a bit, like it took me 3 to 4 hours. The game was lucky enough to have interesting mechanics to keep me engaged, but first impressions are everything. I don't blame a veteran giving up on the game after he was forced to play lower level charts. That was me as Rotano. You have to S-rank difficulty 3 to unlock difficulty 4. Same idea with Phigros. Apparently you unlock all the 4th difficulties when you reach level 10, but I never reached that point since I got bored quickly trying to play through all the 3rd difficulties. Moving on to My, which has this problem on a worse scale because it's an arcade game. Having to S-rank the expert to unlock the master is just like the other games I mentioned, but no matter what rank you are, the charts will be all master locked. There are workarounds like only the newer charts are master locked so you can skip the master on older charts, but most of the popular songs are from newer charts. It's more appealing to play songs from these familiar looking artists than whatever these songs are. Like, there's like this AI generated chart with elevator music playing over a building, for example. Oh, what's that sound? Oh shit! But if your partner has the chart unlocked, you can leech them and play the master, and then other people leech off you into the point where everyone has a song. You don't experience this problem that much here in Australia, because luckily enough, or unlucky, depending on how antisocial you are, you're guaranteed to play with someone else, since there aren't a lot of machines here. But the rare chance that you're all alone and you want to play some locked masters, you can spend an extra credit to get all the masters unlocked for that turn, or spend more money to get a card that unlocks all the masters only for 2 weeks until you have to buy a new one. Okay, so these cards only exist in Japan, since there are more machines in a singular arcade there than in entire countries, which allows Japanese people to be very antisocial since they aren't forced to play with other people, meaning they can't leech songs from other players. It's pretty obvious that these design changes were made to extract more money from you, since some sort of spending is involved. You either play for the experts, and since you're playing more, you have to spend more credits, or you just pay more upfront just to get the songs unlocked. It just feels scummy. Surely I'm not the only one that has this issue. Like, maybe some experienced players can agree with me when they try out a new rhythm game. It's like the equivalent of putting someone that's new to gaming against an ex-Counter-Strike pro in Valorant. They both newly installed a game, but the ex-pro has years of aim and game sense that can be transferred over because the games are similar to each other. Valorant and other shooters compensate for this and put experienced players in higher skilled games because of the hidden MMR that accurately places players in lobbies with the same skill level. So how would we solve this first world problem? Well, it's finding a balance between making harder levels more accessible at the beginning of the game, as well as not overwhelming beginner players, and as well as not being a way to extract money from a consumer. All the games I mentioned before fall in this beginner area, but if we go to the far end of the spectrum, we can do the Osu approach. Let every song with every difficulty be played off the bat. I assume any veteran would like this solution, but I guess seeing all these choices would be overwhelming for newer players, and like what I said earlier, we gotta keep the newer players from being dumb. The middle ground I found is Tunafilm, where it does sound worse than Mai, with all the master difficulties being locked and having the culture of playing with someone else non-existent, so you can't really lead songs. But it makes up for these master play tickets, where you buy them with in-game currency. I'm no Tunafilm expert because I barely played the game, so I don't know how to earn currency, but I currently have 21,000 with only 10 plays. That means I can afford 42 master play tickets, which is a lot. So beginners will be restricted to lower levels so they don't end up choosing something that's way too hard for them, while veterans have master play tickets easily accessible for them to use. It's a perfect balance, and I wish games would consider appealing to beginners without restricting the experienced players. The biggest issue with this is that I don't want to play Tunafilm